That was one of the craziest, one of the wildest playoff games I have ever seen, at least when it pertains to the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Danna, the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors, is going to be the voice of reason and sanity, maybe, pertaining to what my opinions and views are going to be. But we're going to recap game one. We're going to preview what's to come. And I'm going to try to present why I think I don't know what the right nomenclature is. It could be rigging, it could be bias, it could be influence, whatever it is. There's something going on here that seems to routinely go against the Warriors. And I'm going to at least try to explain the why of it in the most sane, rational way possible. And Kevin, you're going to, again, possibly be the voice of reason, maybe the voice of sanity. But regardless, we're going to get into it. It's Warriors basketball. It's Warriors playoff basketball. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. You can follow Kevin Danna on Twitter at Kevo408. He's the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter again, thank goodness, at DogSurfRoadshow. Kevin, I'm gonna tell a story real quick about what happened to me today. I hope this doesn't bore the audience. We are live. We're going to address any comments you want to drop in on us. We'll address them all as long as they're sane and reasonable. Hopefully, so am I today. So at some point in the game, I think Draymond was ejected in the second quarter. Shortly before that, about 5 to 10 minutes before that ejection happened, this is a wild and rollicking game one. It's a back and forth. It's a tight game. Warriors lead early, then Grizzlies lead. It was just a wild playoff game. It was insanely entertaining. But then this happens to me, and I don't know if anyone can relate or not, but I get this direct message, and I'm going to show you exactly what the message is so that you folks can hopefully take this as a learning experience so it doesn't happen to you. I get this message as a direct message, a DM on my Twitter account. And oh shoot, hold on, I gotta open it back up again real quick. But anyway, so the message comes from a verified account. They have a blue check mark, and that immediately tells me, okay, there might be some legitimacy to what this message entails. So, all right, here we go. So now I found it. So this is what the message was, and I actually have a copy of this because Mark Haynes, my buddy, who's the Warriors beat reporter for Clutch Points, had this exact same message sent to him, and he sent me a screen capture. And it was from this individual who I believe is actually an employee with The Athletic. Her name is Jenny Dalcreech. Apparently, her Twitter account got hacked. And I get this message that says, right there, quote, "Your blue badge Twitter account has been reviewed as spam by our Twitter team, so forth, so forth. Click on the link to resolve this." I'm freaking out, because I'm barely focused on this message, given the Warriors game's going on. My good friend, and Kevin, I don't know if you're friends with him or if you're familiar with him, Chris Townsend, who's now primarily covers the Oakland Athletics. He used to be on the Warriors flagship station, The Game, for a large number of years, and at Kane BR and so forth. Close friend of mine. He lost his blue check mark for a reason like this. And I have no idea if the hacker was aware of this fact, and that's why he was sending this particularly worded message, but it concerned me. And I'm like, oh boy. And I stupidly click on this link, which in hindsight is not a Twitter domain. It's account-guidelines.com. But I, like an idiot, clicked on it. And the next thing I know, my Twitter account's gone. Just went poof. Then I get a message on WhatsApp from the hacker. And they have an international code of like 44, which I think is England. And they're direct messaging me saying they're from Twitter and they're going to try to get my account back for me. And it's the hacker, and he's trying to get my Gmail access. And I sniffed that out quick. So I'm like, oh boy. So here we go. So anyways, then I'm like sending endless messages to Twitter, to their support team, like, please get my account back. I'm reaching out to a former student of mine, Christian, when he was my student at St. Mary's in a sports journalism class. He used to work for Twitter, asking for any help possible. Fortunately, I got the account back this morning. The whole reason I bring this up is because, A, I'm dealing with this crap of potentially losing my Twitter account altogether, and look, life goes on if I lose it, but it's a tremendous marketing tool. And Kevin, do you have the blue check mark, by the way? Are you verified?
See, this is the joy of not being verified. I don't have to go
Uh,
through any of this. So,
well, I'm going to show you how to get verified because you should be by now, and it's an easy
I
it's only a
couldn't
few
care
steps.
less about being verified.
I know. Well, it has cachet, and if you're in the media game, especially just for anyone really, it helps tremendously with jobs, credibility. Because at a minimum, if you're a journalist and someone else knows that's who you actually are, it's much more likely they're going to be transparent and open with you. I use that account to book guests. I mean, there's a million reasons I use this account for. So the point is, I'm suddenly dealing with losing my Twitter account. And then I look up on the TV and I'm seeing Draymond like waving to the Memphis crowd and running away. And I'm like, what the F is going on here? And so that's my pandemonium. And when I'm seeing that going on, if you're a Warriors fan, I think you can relate to the fact that you're getting borderline PTSD from seeing that. Because I honestly thought when that happened in 2016, the ejection that we should not name, but unfortunately is now back in the news when Draymond Green was suspended for Game 5. I did not think that would ever happen again. I thought the NBA had corrected itself. I thought they would refrain from flat out ejecting a vitally important player like Draymond Green from a playoff game where you want teams to earn victories and not have them handed to them by players ejected. So I'm just, dude, I was complete. I was incredulous, man. And I went on Larry Krueger's show last night. I apologize since for my emotions just being run amok. You know, I don't know if you could tell if I'm more calm now. I mean, maybe I don't seem that way, but that was psychotic. So I do still maintain. Now I have my Twitter account back. The Warriors did win the game, but I'm still pissed at the fact that the NBA decided to meddle again in the result of the game. Fortunately, they failed in their attempt, but the Warriors, without Draymond Green, it was shocking they pulled that victory off. And Kevin, here's why I think there is something foul amiss here. And I hate being called a conspiracy theorist. I don't like it, man. It's not something I'm fond of simply because conspiracies are not provable. So here's what I'll present to you. And then Kevin, I would love to get your thoughts. Thank you for letting me ramble for 6 minutes here. In the early 2000s, Tim Donaghy, NBA official who we now know rigged countless games. I haven't even done my research on him yet. I know there's a documentary coming out, but I'm going to research his whole background soon because Larry Krueger mentioned that in a lot of the games he fixed, he made hundreds of calls to other officials just moments before those games start. So there's no conspiracy there that an NBA official literally rigged games. If you're a fan of the Sacramento Kings, you have every right to this day to be utterly upset over the fact that your 2001 Sacramento Kings were robbed of reaching the NBA Finals because that game was literally rigged. The official admitted to doing so. All right, that happened. Now there's a concept called cultural hegemony. I teach this in my university and college classrooms. It's a concept I learned a lot about when I was in graduate school. Where'd you go to, Kevin, by the way? Where'd you go to school, Kevin? Where'd you go to college?
Stanford undergrad, Northwestern grad school.
Wow, so you have a master's degree?
Indeed.
And so the concept of culture, congrats, by the way. That's very impressive, Kevin. There's a lot about you I want to learn, man. But anyway, so I'm surprised they didn't cover this concept. It's much more on the sociological side of things.
Well, I'm a functional idiot, Cyrus. So yeah,
no, you're not. No, you're not.
You'll have to explain a few things.
Kevin, I'm not asking you to come back on the show time and time again if you're an idiot. You're not an idiot. I promise you that. Cultural hegemony is a concept. And again, I went to a research school. I don't know if your graduate program was more like a practicum course layout, pedagogy.
So my graduate school is definitely more practicum based.
Okay. So,
Stanford's like a research university, but trust me, I didn't do much research there.
And plus, it's not something you learn in undergraduate studies, but you learn this in graduate school, and it's more of a sociological theory, which cultural hegemony states that the ruling class, those who are in complete power, will do whatever they can to maintain a society that follows their beliefs, their values, all right? And an example of this could be Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the anthem. You have owners, you have billionaires who don't like it for whatever reason, right? They think it's an insult to the flag. They think it's unpatriotic, even though it's ridiculous. In my opinion, it's a ridiculous notion to think so. But you have owners like Jerry Jones telling their players, don't kneel for this anthem, even though the NFL rules state you can, right? In the NBA, they're not allowed to kneel, so that's why you don't see that. So that's an example of cultural hegemony. David Stern telling players in the early 2000s that it's time to have a dress code implemented for the sake of increasing the image and brand of the game. That's an example of cultural hegemony because David Stern is basically telling the players who before they were doing that, he's basically telling them, now you're looking like lower class by dressing the way you do and we want our values of what we think is right to be instilled in the NBA. So now you see players wearing suits. Now you see a dress code. Now you see a decorum that was not in place, right? So the reason why I bring up cultural hegemony here is because when it comes to Draymond Green, the way he acts, the way that, I mean, look, he's not shy. The man does not have much of a filter. He's outspoken. He feels free to say what is on his mind. He routinely will question referees. All the stuff that he does on the court is not the norm, is not what we as society, especially the more conservative side of society, would consider to be proper decorum, to be proper behavior in a civilized society, right? And so maybe the bias is there. Maybe they look at Draymond and they're like, we don't like the way you act, so we're going to enforce a different standard of rules on you versus someone like, say, Chris Paul, who, when you look at the actual evidence, is a much dirtier player than Draymond Green. Just look at the last round of the playoffs with Chris Paul, where he's literally kicking a man in the groin and getting a flagrant 1 retroactively after the fact, because the refs didn't call it at the time. He literally elbows the same player in the face in the next game. The foul is called on Alvarado. I hope I got his name right. My point is, there are different standards in place for different players. And when you look at the fact that the NBA does have a financial motive, you look at the China thing, for example, where Daryl Morey tweeted out about Hong Kong, and for the next year, and the entire NBA collectively decided, we're not going to touch on a subject that is blatantly unethical in terms of human rights simply because it affects our bottom line. You look at the 2016 NBA Finals, LeBron James puts a call into the NBA offices and gets Draymond Green's flagrant issued retroactively, thus resulting in a Game 5 suspension. Whether that is cultural hegemony, whether that is LeBron's influence because of his Nike deals and because of how much money he brings in. My point is, I don't appreciate being called a conspiracy theorist on this, because there is a lot of evidence. Pete Rose in baseball kicked out for life because he gambled on the game. These things actually do happen. Okay, there's a long history of the evidence showing that the integrity of professional sports is often compromised based on various interests, based on various motives. And I do think there is something amiss here when it comes to the treatment of the Golden State Warriors, and especially Draymond Green, when he's being suspended, or in this case, ejected, for a foul that nearly universally the entire national media is saying that is way extreme, especially given the second flagrant was him being accused of pulling a player down when he's trying to catch the man. He's not pulling him down. He caught him. So that's my diatribe. I'm done. Kevin, thanks for sitting through that. And I actually have to give BetOnline, our longtime sponsor, a quick love. And then I will let you take the next 10 minutes, man. I will let you take it back, and then we'll take all the comments who are coming in here, because I could be out of my mind. I could be completely nuts saying this, but everything I cited in terms of history did really happen. All right, I'm not making those things up. So I don't appreciate anyone out there saying I'm a conspiracy theorist when I'm literally giving you objective events that occurred that compromise the integrity of a lot of professional sports. And for you to sit there and say that can't happen with Draymond, that can't happen with the Warriors, you can't say that either. That's as much of a conspiracy as saying there is a bias against Draymond. With that said, speaking of gambling, betonline.net. They're your number one source for all your betting stats and sports information. Kevin, do you know what the line is for tomorrow's game? Has that come out? I think the Warriors were favored by 2 in game 1.
Yeah,
do you have any idea? I'm going to betonline.net right now to find out myself. Do you have any clues?
I do not know the spread. My guess would be not big of a spread, though.
Okay, so with that said, while I look this up real quick, what are your thoughts, man? We'll mix this in with the BetOnline read. What are your thoughts on everything I said, and what are your thoughts on Draymond Green's ejection in game 1 of this Western Conference Semifinals?
I don't want to mess with our sponsorship dollars.
Well, I'll say this. The Warriors are favored in game 2 by 1.5 points. The over-under, which was easily nailed in game 1, 227.5. The Warriors, by the way, but because they won by 1, did not cover the spread in game 1, incredibly. All right, sounds good. We'll save your thoughts for when we come back. Real quick, though, just to finish this read up, again, betonline.net, head to the website or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Kevin, the floor is now yours. Take it away, please.
All right. So if anyone saw me laughing while Cyrus was making his point, it wasn't about Cyrus's comments. It was just I read Kenneth Jackson's comment saying Kevin looks high out of his mind. I was like, oh, that's Trust me, I'm completely sober right now. So yeah, no, I'm not high out of mine, but I did appreciate the comment. And Pete, I saw Cyrus, to your point about like conspiracies and all that. I saw someone say like on Twitter that you were going back and forth with, like, leave the QAnon conspiracy stuff alone. And so I'm not calling you Cyrus Taylor Green here or anything
Thank
like
you.
that.
Thank you.
My whole thing is the place I come from. I do not think the NBA is rigged. And if the NBA was rigged, they would rig it for the Warriors to win every single playoff series because the Warriors are a ratings cash cow. They consistently have the best local ratings. Like, it would be against the NBA's best interest to try to like sabotage a game against the Warriors in the playoffs. I just don't think, like, if they were in the business of fixing the 2022 NBA playoffs, they're doing it wrong because they should be trying to help the Golden State Warriors.
Well, what if it's not, Kevin, real quick, what if it's not like rigging in the traditional sense, meaning like they're trying to make the Warriors lose, but maybe there's an influence and a bias in the sense that there's a double standard applied to Draymond Green versus pretty much everyone else. I'm not sitting here saying there are referees and mob bosses or even or corporate bosses saying like, hey, let's try to rig this. But what I am saying is I think there could be a belief in the higher ups where we don't like this Draymond Green guy. He doesn't bring a lot of money to the game. His behaviors are sending a bad message for our youth. It sends a bad message for the society and the family values we believe in. And so we want to send him a message every time he acts out of line. Do you think there's there's a semblance of truth to that?
All right. So if the NBA really thought he was all those bad things, would the NBA on TNT, would TNT give him the contract he has right now? TNT is such a close partner with the NBA. Like, he's a media darling. Like, I think the NBA loves Draymond Green. Now, the NBA officials might not love Draymond Green. But like, Draymond Green is going to be a part of the NBA for the next 30, 40 years, however long he wants to be, right? He's going to like he's probably going to take Charles Barkley's chair on it inside the NBA. Like, I don't think the NBA would conspire against a guy who's going to be like a focal point of like NBA coverage. Mm-hmm. So I will say, I thought that was a flagrant one at best. Like you, I thought Draymond Green was trying to help Brandon Clark up. He grabbed his jersey. He said like his hand got caught, and then from there he was trying to pull him up. And like, I don't know how his hand got in there, but to me it looked like very clearly he was trying to brace Brandon Clark's fall. So like, Agreed. I don't think it was a flagrant 2. Now, obviously, the news came out today that they're not rescinding the 2 flagrant points that he's getting.
Correct.
And yeah, like, I don't think he should have been ejected. I don't think he should have been suspended for Game 5 of the NBA Final. That's my personal opinion. But I don't think that's like grounds for me to say that like the NBA has it out on Draymond Green. Like, yes, there is like his reputation is his reputation, and sure, I'm sure that plays some sort of role. Like, he gets a lot of technical fouls, but you brought up a point, Cyrus, that like, well, the NBA doesn't like how this guy acts in games. He acts differently. Like, Draymond Green isn't the only guy that gives refs crap in the NBA. Like, Luka Doncic is like notorious for this stuff. And that's just one example of there are 510 NBA roster spots, including 2-way contracts. Mm-hmm. Like, there are probably in 450 of like, out of the 450 15-man roster guys, I'd say probably 450 of them have complained to the officials at some point in their NBA career. Like, Draymond Green is not like unique in this aspect. A ton of guys, especially like, give these guys crap. I remember talking with one official, and I won't mention his name because like, I don't want to get him in trouble or whatever. But sure. Like, I was talking with him because I know a lot of like officials through the G League, and I love the officials personally. And like, I don't mean to be like Johnny corporate, which I kind of am because I do work for a team. And like, I always like to say I'm the corporate soulless entity here on Locked On Warriors podcast. But but like, I was like, man, it must suck like dealing with all these guys complaining to you, like game after game, call after call, is like, well, yeah, professional basketball players are professional complainers. 1000% correct. So like, it's not just Draymond who does that. So I would push back on that a little bit.
All right.
Draymond is not unique in like how he it's part of the culture of the game to like talk crap about the officials. And I think by the
way, Ayesha Curry agrees with me. I'm just saying. I mean, this was 6 years ago, but I'm just saying the wife of Stephen Curry, we're on the same page. Give me some love. No, I'm just kidding. This was 6 years ago, but anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
So like, I think like what players, coaches, fans, and broadcasters all fail to appreciate, like really appreciate, and broadcasters will say, oh, the officials have a tough job. I don't think we really actually understand how tough it is to be an official. I'll tell you this. I made this point on Twitter. For all the 3,475 people that follow me out of the 60 million plus who are on Twitter, I have like 0.001% of the market share. One of the most stressful jobs I've ever had was being a referee. And it was for kickball, freaking kickball, first base umpire for kickball, like at some random like playground, like with like this like a beer league kickball tournament. Yeah, there was some money on the line. It was like $1,500 for first place. These people were making six figures for playing this. Like, trust me, these people weren't hurting for cash. Where like this like made or broke their life. And like every play was like kind of like a half step or a step difference. I was sweating bullets the entire time. Like that one experience, that one day made me not want to be a ref again. They harangued me. Like I got harangued left and right. And they told me I was one of the good officials. Like the same people were talking like mess to me were also saying, hey, you do a good job. And like, so imagine how they felt about the other officials who they were like lambasting. Is like, it is such split. And this is kickball. Like professional basketball is incredibly difficult to officiate. Mm-hmm. And so I think like these split second decisions, like, yes, I thought the ball was clearly off Memphis with 4.6 seconds to go. I thought it clearly was
yes,
Draymond Green. But like, we have the gift of 10 replays. And I honestly think when we watch the game from the camera angles, we have a better perspective of the floor than the referees do when they are right down there.
That's fair.
So like, these decisions are way too split second to say, hey, this like the referees don't want us to win this game. Like, why do the Warriors only like not get calls and the Grizzlies do? By the way, like the Warriors only took 4 fewer free throws in that game yesterday. Like it wasn't like an egregious difference. So
I'll push back on that only with this, Kevin. 2 things real quick, and then we can move on from this topic because I know the fans want to hear this.
Debate this all day. Like
no, I know, but
I'll need to stand up for the officials, and I'll be that man.
Well, one, it is utterly asinine to me that you have 3 officials on the court and none of them could tell who that ball was out of bounds on. That was ridiculous. I mean, you have 3 people on the court and none of them could see that. So
here's my pushback to that. I thought like, well, obviously when I saw it live time, I thought it was off Memphis, and then the replay clearly showed that it was off Memphis. But I thought that was the right call that they made, because like in that situation, those coaches don't have a challenge left, and you don't have that replay trigger in the final 2 minutes anymore. So you don't want to give one team an advantage there. If you didn't see it, you have to call a jump ball there. Yeah. And like, all right, I think maybe if a coach had a challenge left in that situation, maybe they would have said, hey, Golden State ball, and then Memphis would have challenged it.
Well, Ricardo Vero, I mean, the Warriors lost their challenge for what he's referring to right there. Is was the call, I think, where they called an offensive foul on Steph?
Yes,
and then Kerr had to use his challenge, and they didn't have that. They need to revise that rule, because this was the first year where they've changed the rule so that they can't review out of bounds plays when it's under 2 minutes. And I get why they did that. It slowed the game down tremendously. but maybe revise it to a sense where
It could have been used in like this would be the one scenario where I feel
yeah,
like
or revise the
it'd be
challenge
nice.
system where if a coach wins a challenge, they get to keep it. Like I wouldn't mind something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand the efforts to speed up the game, but at the same time, the fairness and integrity of it also needs to be maintained and restored. Anyways, maybe these refs just need either built bars. I don't know. I mean, something's going on there. Because the problem is it's not just the Warriors that are pissed. It's like every game. You have normally reserve coaches like Monty Williams getting fined 15,000. You have the coach of the Grizzlies was fined 15,000. I mean, it's just absurd. Everyone's complaining, and if everyone's complaining, you're not doing something right here. Either consistency needs to be established, or just shut up. Stop letting us hear that damn whistle so much. Let them play. I mean, we love playoff basketball partly because of the physicality of it, because the refs stay out of it. And now the refs are treating these games like the regular season games. It's absurd. Maintain consistency. Stop blowing that damn whistle and eat your Built bars because they're good for, well, they're relatively good for you. Again, they're covered in 100% real chocolate, so they taste amazing. And compared to a regular candy bar, they only have 130 calories. Your normal candy bar has 240 calories. And the best part is they only have 4 grams of sugar with each Built bar, whereas your typical candy bar has 30 grams of sugar. Candy bars, sugar, bad for you. Built bar, 17 grams of protein, makes you feel full just from a small bar. Good for you. Go to built.com to get all your favorites, whether it's banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate, my favorite cookies and cream, and so much more. They're all delicious. New flavors are coming. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Make sure to go check out Locked On NBA Big Board. Host Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies and author of the NBA Big Board newsletter is joined by Richard Stayman, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin, giving fans an in-depth look into the NBA draft, mock draft, player rankings, and of course, the big boards. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. And so is Kevin Danna on Twitter. At least you can follow him on Twitter at Kevo408. You can follow me on Twitter at Dog Surf Roadshow. All right, we bashed the refs enough. I think I've said my piece. Kevin, you played devil's advocate beautifully. Thank you for that. Let's talk about the game itself. All right, because there was a game that was played. C.H. Chung chimes in and says, dude, can we talk about GP2 and how he makes so many winning plays so consistently? We absolutely can. If there is ever a GP2 friendly show, it's Locked On Warriors. We've been saying since I started hosting this show back in early December, he should be getting heavy minutes. Well, you know what? He finally did. And the results show. The dude is a winner. Kevin, what are your thoughts on Gary Payton II, man? This guy is incredible. They need him for the future beyond just now. What a game. Give me your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I love GP2. I mean, I got a chance to watch this guy a lot over the last 5 years because he spent a good chunk of each of the last 5 years in the G League. Just last year, he killed Golden State or Santa Cruz when he was with Raptors 905. And like the thing that like surprised and like I mean especially when he was like playing with the RGV Vipers and the South Bay Lakers, two like teams that are kind of rivals with Santa Cruz, like he'd be a Santa Cruz killer. The thing that always held him back wasn't his defense, because he's always been a great defender, but was his shooting. He was a career 27% three-point shooter in the G League. Mm-hmm. And then this year that rose to 36%. And then like even more efficient in the spots where they want him to spot up. He was a 39% corner three shooter. And so that makes him a lot more playable because he's not a complete liability on offense. And then like the Warriors just figured out that, hey, like as Klen Azubuike says, he's a little big man. Like they figured out the best way to like play with him is to like invert the floor with him, like put him in the dunker spot, because he has like the verticality to rise over people like he did on Desmond Bane yesterday. Like that dunk was ferocious.
My
and,
Lord.
He had dunked like that over Kelly Oubre earlier this year, former Golden State Warrior. And like just what he brings to the like offense besides the shooting is really good, because it's not only like that that verticality at the rim, that vertical spacer. Because I mean, they were like in November, December, once they figured out they could like use him that way, he was kind of like in a JaVale McGee kind of role for Golden State for a little bit.
Agreed.
Like they just couldn't stop throwing him lobs. There was like a 2 or 3 game where like anytime he was on the floor, they were just looking to lob it up to GP2. But like not only that, but like he's a smart player. Like he knows how to play within the framework of Golden State really well.
Agreed.
He finishes so well around the rim. Like he was like a 77 per. Hold on, I gotta get out my chart just to make sure I say this right. But like in the restricted area this year, he was 77% at the rim. The NBA average was like 58, 59%.
Wow.
And like, you'd expect like 77% to be like for guys who are like Clint Capello or like 6'11", 7 feet. No, for a 6'2", 6'3" guy to be doing that is incredible. And then of course he gets to start because of his defense, right? Because like in the regular season against Ja Morant this year, he was incredible. And obviously, Ja Morant went off yesterday, 34, 10, and 9. But like Gary Payton II still like plays very good defense for this team. And like
those numbers, a lot of those numbers were not compiled when Gary Payton was on him. You could tell the Grizzlies were looking for switches. Gary Payton II got in foul trouble early, which limited his minutes to 23. I don't think that's the amount Kerr wanted. I'm guessing he wanted closer to 30. But you're absolutely right. And I want to throw in just because for anyone who's partaking with the chat, I don't know if we addressed that one already. Francis, you quickly chime in. The NBA doesn't really love the Warriors. Maybe true. And Kevin, this raises a point, and I would love to get your insights on this. How many more championships do the Warriors need to win to earn respect? And what I mean by that is like they had the greatest 5-year run in history, but they got 3 titles out of that, and they're not universally respected like a Tom Brady is, like a Michael Jordan is, like the 80s 49ers were. Like there's still a lot of people that want to beat them. There's still a lot of people that just don't respect them. And you see that from the attitudes of fans. You see that from the attitudes of other players. How many more titles before people finally look at this Warriors team and go, damn, that's just greatness, and I just fully respect you? 1 more, 2 more? What do you think? I mean, maybe they never will. I don't know. What do you think?
It kind of reminds me of the podcast that we were doing with Rick over the weekend, right? When we were talking about how the closeout game is always the toughest to win. And then Rick said, who says that? The players? No, the media. All right. And so like, who doesn't respect the Warriors? Is it anyone who knows anything, like really knows the NBA? Or is it people who are A, just trying to say something provocative, or B, just like casual fans of the game? And so like, I don't think anyone who's like really invested in the NBA, I don't think any of those people don't respect the Warriors, because how could you not? They won 5 straight title. I mean, they went to the finals 5 straight years, and they won 3 titles in 5 years, and now they are a title contender again. I don't think they need to prove anybody to get any real respect. They have that respect. If you hear like players not on Golden State talk about the Warriors, it's not like, oh, these guys are bums, like screw them, like we're gonna kick their
I'm not
ass.
saying that level. But the universal respect is lacking, though. Like you don't hear people really talk bad about Tom Brady anymore. Like there's no one disputing he's the GOAT. People, when Jordan played, now the people didn't grow up watching Jordan might say some bad things about him because they love LeBron and they praise him. But when Jordan played, especially at the end of his career, it was universal in terms of respect. I'm talking everyone. But today, the Warriors, you have the Kendrick Perkins types of the world, the Jay Williams types of the world, who still cast out. Like Perkins was on, I can't believe he's even a media member. What a waste of money that ESPN is spending on him.
Perk.
Do you really? Sorry, Dad.
I think he's entertaining. Hey, no, that like, it's great that you hate him and I love him. That's kind of what he's there for, right? He's there for the device.
But there's still those types that still cast doubt and still like just refuse to just kind of show the respect, whereas like, and what I'm trying to say is the Warriors clearly have not reached their apex until they get that universal respect. And I'm curious to know, like, how many more titles? Like, is it 1? Is it 2? I mean, maybe it never will be. I don't know. But like LeBron still has not reached that. I don't think he ever will. I think if LeBron had won 1 more, you might start seeing that. Certainly if you got 2 more, but yeah, it's just really weird to me that like the Warriors have not still reached that level where everyone's like, damn, that is just a great team. And and we need to be afraid of them. Like, people aren't afraid of them. You know what I'm saying? Like if a football team faces Tom Brady, they're like, oh boy, like here comes the GOAT. And, and if when Jordan played, everyone was like, they just knew he was going to win no matter what. No one would even want to speak out. I just don't feel that universal respect. All right, and who's CB, by the way? Steven Stanley writes, CB gives the Warriors some lip service. Do you know who he's referring to?
CB,
Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley. That's another example. Barkley doesn't give him the respect that he still is, like, for some reason, not fully in on them. Anyways, I was just curious if, like, you thought.
Let me just ask you this: like, does it matter if they get the respect or not?
A little bit. I wouldn't mind it.
Okay. All right.
I guess I love this team that much, and that's where I can be biased sometimes, but I would love, and this is, again, Kevin, this is me growing up a spoiled sports fan, given the 49ers were, in my opinion, the greatest football dynasty ever, at least during the 80s and that early 90s run they had. I grew up spoiled. To me, that was greatness. And I feel like the Warriors can reach that. They need one or two more championships, though. Yeah, I would like that. I would like to see everyone shut up. I would. I would honestly like to see everyone out there who's a Warriors hater just say, damn, you win. You're right. They're just the epitome of greatness. I would.
I don't think the haters are ever going to show up shut up, excuse me. Because, trust me, I was a big Michael Jordan hater when I was 12 years old. And the fact that he kept on winning didn't make me like the Bulls more. I just hated them more. But of course, I was 11 to 12 years old. Actually, 11 years old when they won their final title. So, 11-year-old me is not like a good example. But haters gonna hate, ain'ters gonna hate, as they said in the interview, right? With Dan Franco and Seth Rogen. So, yeah, I personally don't care.
Fair. That's fair.
Because respect isn't tangible. You know what is tangible? Championship rings, and the Warriors have 3 of them, and that's pretty damn good.
That is damn good. I want 5 at least, though, and I think they can do it. I really think they could do it, man. Especially. I mean, if there was one really encouraging thing with that game yesterday, was seeing Jonathan Kuminga playing. He played 15 minutes, just had a solid 6.6 rebound effort. What I love about Kuminga, and JSP Vlogs brings up that they can use him as a pick and roll partner. Absolutely right. He's absolutely phenomenal pick and roll partner. He has mastered that aspect of the game for sure. And I just love the fact that beside his physicality, beside Kuminga's athleticism, he's a smart player who's an offensive threat, right? Like, the Grizzlies have to respect him when he's out there. They can't just lay off him and kind of double one of the shooters. And that's why, when they have that lineup out there with the 3 guards, the splash party, along with Kuminga and Draymond, that to me, if it's not already their most lethal lineup, and I know GP2 is not in there, so I don't know how you fit all of them together, but Kuminga, bravo. What are your thoughts on him? And just anything else you want to talk about, man? Yeah, we're doing great. Sandris, thank you so much for checking in. I think we're doing good. The Warriors didn't win that game. It was so.
Hey, Sandris, I'm sitting here timing like a Rolex watch. So I'm doing well, as they'd say in Players Holiday. But you know what I really liked about Jonathan Kuminga, Cyrus, yesterday? He went 2 of 2 from the free throw line.
Oh.
And this was by far the biggest playoff scenario that Jonathan Kuminga had ever been in. It's in a very hostile environment, and the Warriors shot 65% from the foul line in that game. And I do think, and I have a couple of free throw conspiracies of my own. Here's my Kevin with a Q Danna segment. QEVIN Danna. I have 2 free throw theories that are based in not much. One is free throws are contagious. So if you see your teammates hitting free throws, you're going to hit free throws at a higher.
Love it.
And then if you get into if you miss 4 of your first 7 free throws as a team, I don't think you're all of a sudden going to make the next 20. I think that bad free throw shooting is going to continue. You see this a lot more in college than in the NBA. And my second one is free throws out of a timeout are very tough to hit, especially in college. You could set your watch to coming out of the under 4 mandatory timeout in the first or second half, that if the first thing coming out of that timeout in a college game is a free throw, the first one is getting missed. And like Steph Curry had like the 4-point play, and then like they took the timeout, and then he missed the free throw. So like for a rookie to go 2 for 2 from the line in those scenarios when like Golden State wasn't hitting free throws, I thought was like really big. And it showed me that he's ready for the moment. And he was very solid in that game. You mentioned the 6 points, the 6 rebounds in 15 minutes. He also added an assist and a steal. He was 2 of 3 from the floor as I just looked at the box score. Like, I am ready for Jonathan Kuminga to play 12 to 15 minutes in every playoff game.
Maybe even more. Yeah, maybe even more. Absolutely. Oz mentions he saw, or maybe it's female, I don't know the gender there, but you saw MJ light up the Warriors back in the early 90s. So did I. I saw him live once playing the Warriors, just lit him up for over 40 points, and I was just entertained because I just knew greatness was in front of me. Stephanie writes, yeah, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, since we're talking MJ and the Warriors, I will say that his last year in 97-98, when the Warriors went 19-63, they played 2 very close games against the Chicago Bulls that year. I want to say they lost by like 4-1 and 7.
Right.
Like they were competitive. Like, damn it, they were competitive in those games. So I was like, this has got to mean something.
You're absolutely right.
They lost 63 games, but
they did play him tough. They're very true. Stephanie, you're right. I am a drama queen. It's a show. You're welcome. And another name, a couple people threw out here, which is a great player to bring up because he played phenomenally. He led the team in rebounding along with insanely Jordan Poole. They both collected 8 rebounds, and so did Otto Porter Jr., I believe. Sean Tomlinson writes, I think for the past few games, we're seeing the best version of Andrew Wiggins, Mr. Hustle Wiggs, Mr. Timely Rebound, 100% right. And timely shot Wiggs at 15 points just feels better than 25-point Wiggs to me. We also have Canyoni. I hope I pronounced that right. Wiggs is so good right now, but the only thing I'm concerned with, I'm ad-libbing here, is his 3 free throws, which he actually did hit this game. He actually hit some clutch ones, didn't he? I thought, but I thought at the end of the game he hit big ones.
He hit. In the words of Shaq, he made them when they count. But
exactly. You're right. But numbers wise, let's not talk about that because that is ugly. And then Wiggins also, and Sean Tomlinson also writes, Wiggs also smiled, which should say something about how he feels about his role.
I'm glad Sean Tomlinson brought this up because I feel like the entire year, all we heard from everyone covering the Warriors was like, Wiggins is smiling now. Like he was like held captive in a cage in Minnesota. Like he had never had a happy moment in his life before he got to San Francisco. And then it's sunshine and daffodils. And like, it's like, all right, I think we're overselling the fact that he's happy. Like, yeah, all right, Andrew Wiggins is happy. He's been a great player here. He had he had a down stretch after the All-Star game, or after he was named an All-Star starter, and it was a bit of a prolonged stretch. But generally, he's been very good for Golden State. And yes, he looks happy. But like, it's to me, I think we're kind of doing his time in Minnesota and before a disservice. Like he was like this depressed, lost, helpless person before he got to San Francisco. And now all of a sudden he's smiling. Oh, everything's great. Golden State saved his life. Like I think we need to cool down on the Andrew Wiggins smiling talk. I'm glad you brought it up, Sean. And I'm not accusing you of saying that because I don't know your Wiggins takes pre 1:44:32 Pacific time on May 2nd, 2022. But yeah, I find it funny that everyone keeps on bringing up that Andrew Wiggins is smiling because, like, I don't know about you, but I didn't watch Andrew Wiggins for 82 games a year in Minnesota. So, like, I watched him maybe 2 or 3 times a year whenever they were playing the Warriors or they were on national television. So
that's fair.
That's my Andrew Wiggins rant. I love Andrew Wiggins.
I love it. No, that's a great take. Maja writes, in time, the Dubs will have their due respect after the core 3 retire. Maybe. And you're right. MJ's more respected now than when he played. Yeah, these are all huge maybes. Very definitely a possibility. Zach, you right. Love the show. Thank you so much. It means the world. Keep up the good work. Damian Lee, he did make an appearance in that game. But Zach also writes, shouldn't Moody be getting those minutes? You know, I have a couple friends of mine who are regular guests of this show who have to take issue with Damian Lee, and it's not Damian Lee's fault, but their issue is that Damian Lee takes up Moody's minutes. What are your thoughts on that, Kevin? Do you think that matters, given Moody's just a rookie?
I think you want to have more experienced guys out in the playoffs. Personally, I love both Moses Moody and Damian Lee, and what Zach said was very true. He had a really good moment in game one where he got it in the corner, made a move to get past the defender, and kicked it out to Jordan Poole for a three. And like post game, I think it was either Steve Kerr or Jordan Poole who credited that shot for getting Poole going because that was the first made three he had. And then from there, he had another 4 threes. I like Damian Lee just knows how to play the game. And I know he gets a sizable amount of grief from the fan base. But like, keep in mind that Damian Lee is a back end rotation player. And so, like, I don't know what you want out of him. He averaged 7.5 points, 3 rebounds this year, and was 71% at the rim, significantly above league average. His 3-point shooting was down this year. But he started off on fire this season, and then he got cold. Like, I'll take Damian Lee as my 12th or 13th man any day of the week.
There you go. I agree. I think the gripes are mostly just either really picky fans or the fact that he's taken the place of a big that the Warriors I feel like still do need, but they're doing fine without one right now. Let's hope it continues. And then we'll end on this note from Sandras. Who's winning game 2? What are your thoughts, man? What happens in game 2? Because on one hand, if the Warriors pull this off in 4 or 5, would not surprise me at this point. It would have surprised me if you told me that before game 1. But now the Warriors have game 1. Now that they've shown that without Draymond Green, they can pull away. I was impressed, man. And I feel like the Warriors did not play their best game either. I really feel like they could play better than that, even though Jordan Poole had just a career night. And kudos to Jordan Poole, because I don't think we give the Poole party enough love in the show today. In 38 minutes of play, 31 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. That is just a staggering stat line for a conference semifinal game. Yes. Kudos to you, Jordan Poole. What do you see in game 2, Kevin? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so you brought up a good point, Cyrus. The Warriors were not at their best. So in game 1, they didn't have Draymond Green for the second half. They shot 65% from the foul line. They couldn't get a rebound to save their life in the first half of that game, especially in the first quarter. Jaren Jackson Jr. hit 6 threes in 9 attempts. He's a 32% 3-point shooter.
That was insane.
He's a decent 3-point shooter. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's probably better than his season average, his season percentage this year. But like, all that happened, and the Warriors won. So like,
it's crazy.
Memphis needed that. Like, they aren't going to trust. I mean, unless another flagrant foul situation happens, they aren't going to get 24 Draymond-less minutes to play against in the second half again this series. I don't think he's going to get another flagrant foul this series. I just think he's not, when he was kind of running up against it with flagrants and technicals in the 2016 playoffs, Draymond Green was 26 years old. There's a difference between a 26-year-old man and a 32-year-old man, a big difference. Like, I think he has matured significantly in that aspect. It's not looking great for Memphis. On the other side of the coin, can you really realistically expect the Warriors to out-rebound Memphis again in this series, like, consistently? I don't think so. Are the Warriors going to get 16 offensive rebounds every game? I don't know. That's a big ask. And like, you got to give a ton of credit to the Warriors. They, the rebound battle at the end of the game was 51-47. I just checked on the box score today. They must have updated something because now it's saying 52-47 Golden State. Like, can the Warriors out rebound Memphis by 5 again? I don't know. Can they outscore them in second chance points 26-22? Like, when I saw that stat, I mean, at one point it was 24-16 in the game yesterday. I was like, what? I didn't realize that they would have been +8 in second chance points, especially like the first quarter and like large parts of the game where they just couldn't get a defensive rebound at all. Yep. And so for them to not only be even in offensive rebounds, but have the edge in second chance points, that was really impressive. it's going to be tough for Golden State to do that time after time. But
Yeah, that's fair.
I definitely like the Warriors' chances in this series. I think they're the better team. I think they're going to win this series. With respect to game 2, like Memphis is going to come out guns blazing. Like, you ever seen you watch The Matrix, Cyrus?
Oh yeah.
All right. So you remember like when they're making the stand against the machines or whatever, this guy strapped in a mech and he's just like firing off his, like, they're going to be like that dude firing off their machine guns. Like, like that guy firing off his guns in the mech. So like, that's what they have to do. And so they're going to throw everything they can at Golden State. And it's going to be a tough one to win. I do think Golden State can win that game, though, because like that has to be demoralizing at some level to Memphis.
You're absolutely right. And we'll break this down more so tomorrow morning on Locked On Warriors. Just to finish up here, DP adds that Damian Lee has more defensive experience, and that is true. And he's not a small guy; he's 6'5", so he brings a little size there for a guard. Josh 90 writes, "Is it wrong to say I absolutely despise Boston Celtics fans?" No, nothing wrong with that at all. And then last but not least, I want to wrap it on this note from Conscious Raza. I've seen you in a few different shows. Jaw usually makes that shot at the end. Here's my rebuttal to that. Respect the Warriors defense because GP2 was covering him. Klay Thompson was helping as well. And Jaw did not even hit the damn rim on that layup. All right. So give the defense a little credit there because I heard Jaw say, that was just a missed layup. No, you had 2 stout defenders on you. And if that was a casual layup that you missed, you would have at least hit the rim. That just flung off the backboard, man. He just tossed it up as like almost like a Hail Mary type. And one final note from DP, there was a point where all the defensive rebounds were long and they were bunched under the basket. In the second half, they were positioned to manage both and run in to help at the rim. Yeah, the Warriors were playing on a string, man. This is what Steve Kerr's talked about all season. Rick Barry talks about this a lot in terms of rebounding. You don't always need size to win the rebounding battle. You need to just be in the right position and playing on a string. Team defense applies to rebounding as well. You can follow Kevin Danna on Twitter at Kevo4Wade. Kevin, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on with me today and hearing me rant for 10 minutes about officiating and conspiracy. It's just the bottom line is look, if you want me to shut up about this, like let's just have evenly called games. Let's not have Draymond Green ejected and giving me PTSD again, bringing me back to 2016. That was ridiculous. I was listening to a podcast. I won't name the host. They're big enough where they don't need the additional promotion. But one of the 2 hosts, they started talking about this. One of the 2 hosts said, well, in 2016, Draymond did deserve it because he kicked LeBron in the nuts. And then I'm sitting here listening going, what is he talking about? And then a minute later, he comes back and goes, you know what? I just saw the replay. He didn't kick him in the nuts. He just was getting up and his hand maybe hit LeBron in the groin. And that is one of the most ludicrous things ever to be suspended for a game over. And that is just, it's insane. Okay. Just stop. I just want the referees to stop being the difference in these games. Stay out of the way. You're supposed to be white noise. You're supposed to be in the background, being an official, not being a difference maker. That's all I want.
Okay, two things. First off, what up, yes. Conscious Raza? I was reading the comments earlier, saying what's up. So I know Conscious Raza. Like Conscious Raza is like my partner.
Nice.
Like we go way back. Don Suave is not actually his name, but I can tell that he doesn't want his real identity revealed. So don't worry, it won't. But we always say we want referees to be like not deciding the factor of the game, white noise, but can we define what that actually means? And I'm not asking you, I'm not saying I'm saying just like a royal, because we always say this as a sports society, don't let the refs dictate the games, but how are they supposed to not make calls one way or that's literally their job?
Well, I guess for starters, be more consistent with the free throw count. You brought up the fact the Grizzlies only had 4 more, but this has been a trend for 4 or 5 games now where you're right. It evens out toward the end, but the refs are letting other teams blow open games early. Like the Grizzlies had a 9-2 free throw advantage in the first quarter. Two free throw attempts to the Warriors, 9 for the Grizzlies. But Aaron Gordon in the last Nuggets game had more free throw attempts individually than the Warriors had as a team, I think, in the first half. It's just there's a lot of things I'm looking at. And ultimately, okay, if we could just let's at a minimum say this. Stop suspending star players. Let star players finish games unless they're literally committing murder out there. I don't want to see star players taken out of games anymore. I'm not complaining that much about the officials on this show. Today was the first time I've dedicated this much time to this. I don't want my star players taken out of games anymore. At a minimum, let's start there. At a minimum, just start there. Okay, how about just forget the free throws? Just stop suspending the Warriors' best players. Is that fair? Can I ask for that? Is that too much to ask for? I mean, like, can we just be really hesitant on flagrant twos in a playoff game? Can we just be really scrupulous in terms of making that decision and not just going, well, technically he did? Like, come on, man. Like read the room, understand the environment you're in. This is a playoff game. Like, let them play. Don't take out one of the most important players on a team. It's just, I'll ask for that at a minimum.
So, like, yeah,
would you?
I agree. Like, I thought that was the wrong call in that situation. I don't think like the refs are purposely trying to screw the Golden State Warriors. And you and I, Cyrus, we wear blue and yellow colored glasses. For perspective on this, Draymond Green foul, I was watching NBA Today on ESPN today. 3 of the 4 people on that show thought it was a flagrant 2. So there you go.
This was on the ESPN show.
Yeah, Sinead
with Kendrick Perkins, who's and Richard insanely biased.
Malika Andrews thought it was a flagrant 1 at best, but 3 out of 4.
Well, and Kevin, I'll respond to you with this. Please pick a show that is not on ESPN, simply because I literally have sources inside that building and people have quit that network who have told me leadership there is just at an all-time low. No one there supports a decision for who is on the panels, who their experts are. I cannot sit here and respect Kendrick Perkins. It was ridiculous. I don't want to hear those opinions, because I'll come back to you and say, well, Stephen A. Smith, I felt, was the most accurate, and that was just an asinine decision. Like, you cannot be suspending. And look, the suspension, ejection.
And doing Stephen A. Smith employed, but it's
fair. He's been there a long time, though. He's been there a long time. I mean, he's been there 10 years plus. Kendrick, all these the new blood in there. I don't know about, man. But I mean, and again, I just don't respect their opinions. I really don't. I watch that show a lot. I respect what's the writer, Zach Lowe. I respect him. I like when he comes on. Richard Jefferson surprised me. I saw that too. I agree with the suspension, but he's also, look, man, he was on the other end of that, and whatever, we can talk about all day. I just don't want Draymond Green to be suspended anymore. That's it.
Yeah, I would prefer him to not be suspended either. We can agree on that.
Yeah, or ejected, whatever the proper vernacular is. It's yeah. All right, folks. Thank you so much. We spent almost an hour doing this, and to Locked On, thank you. We're supposed to do these for 30 minutes, and throughout the playoffs, I'm usually doubling the time. So I sincerely thank the Locked On Network for that as well. And Kevin, I hope you join me again really soon.
Oh,
yeah, pleasure having you on, man.
I'm always happy to come on. Hey,
thanks,
I love having these spirited debates. Embrace debate. They're the way. What there was was that the First Take slogan? Embrace debate. I remember some show. I think it was First Take. Embrace debate. So yeah.
Embrace debate. There you go. Yeah. And this is not a comb over, Bill, but nice effort. And 2, anyone suggests that Jordan Poole gets a different tread on his sneakers? I don't know if he's slipping. I think so. Bill is writing that Jordan Poole is slipping too much on the court. I think that's just his footwork. I really do. I think that's just right. Am I mistaken on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Bill brings up an interesting point. I think sometimes Jordan gets sped up a little bit, and then if your mind's moving faster than your feet, again, I'm not an actual basketball player. I just play pickup and not very well. Don't leave it to me to diagnose what Jordan Poole needs to do to stop slipping. But there have been times where he's gotten a little out of control, and I think for the most part he's done a better job of staying in control, generally over the course of the season. Though last couple of games there have been times where he has gotten a little bit out of control and he has slipped, and it has led to turnovers.
There you go. All right, folks. I'll be back tomorrow morning with more Locked On Warriors. I'm sure Kevin will be back on with me very soon. Until then, take care. Thanks, Kevin. You can follow Kevin Danna one more time on Twitter at Kevo408. He's the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors. You can follow that account at G League Warriors. And again, you can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. And if my account ever gets suspended again, you can always follow the show's account. That's where I was tweeting from at Locked On Dubs. Thank you, folks. Later.
Live long and prosper.